Greetings, Nick Bogart with Sweetwater here, and we are on the stage of the Vogue in Indy. This man here, Dweezil Zappa, he's on his Choice Cuts American leg of a global tour, and he has a mind-boggling rig, so he's going to give us a guided tour through it, and hopefully my brain won't explode. If you see smoke, it's my brain going off, it's not any machine, okay? Because this is not simple. Take it away, my friend.
All right, welcome to the tour of my rig. It is a little confusing, but let's try to simplify. So I use two fractal axe effects, which are in this case here. And it's not that one is a backup, they're both in use at all times, and there's 4 speakers. So technically it's a quad system, but I use it in a way where I have wide stereo and then a mono center channel for a lot of the sounds that I make. But sometimes it's dual stereo, which ends up being dual mono because it's all coming from the same area. So the thing is, each machine has a few effects that go directly to that particular machine. So it's like an autonomous signal flow for each machine. And then I have all these pedals right here which go to both machines at the same time. And that gives me the ability at any time to make a new sound that I've never used before, because I can just try something out on the fly. And for me, it's like sitting in front of a mixing console and just adding faders to a sound to blend stuff. And I use the volume expression pedal stuff for a lot of that as well. So I don't know if I've lost you yet, but there's more that I could explain. Do you have any questions, Nick?
I was just going to say one thing is that one of the things is that, you know, this man, when he was 12, met some guy called Edward Van something.
Yeah, I know that guy. He's Dutch.
Yeah, he's a Dutch guy. Yeah. Apparently his brother plays drums or something.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, apparently. But Eddie has this thing called tone chasing. This man is one of the ultimate tone chasers. What makes his job even harder is he's chasing the tones with this rig of his father, the late, great Frank. So that's double pressure, because not only does he have to make great sounds, but he has to get sounds that emulate the sounds that his father created.
Yes, and that is a challenge. The music is already hard enough to learn. But
yeah, really.
Then to get like the extra layers of detail, so it's evocative of the era from when the songs came. So like if I'm playing something from the 60s, I'm trying to make the sound that is from that era. Or if I'm trying to recreate something that's from Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, which has a really unique doubled sound, I am trying to get that exact sound. You know, some cases I don't try to get the exact sound, but where there are songs that really have a signature sound, I do spend a lot of time for the details of those.
Now, did part of that research look at what your father was using back in the day and trying to get that exact piece, or just find pieces that were the closest modern equivalent to?
Combination, you know, I always was interested in what he was using and how he was using it, so I did get to investigate that and ask him questions and see the stuff up close. So I have a pretty good understanding of what he used to make certain sounds, but it becomes a question of tweaking that kind of equipment to work with this guitar. Because a lot of times, like for example, in this show, I play this guitar all night.
Right.
And some of the songs clearly were never played on an SG and have different kinds of sounds, but this guitar is pretty versatile and can do a lot of different things. So I just tweak the programming of the presets to work with this guitar anyway.
Actually, what I'd like to do very quickly is, before we get into depth here, just to give us a mental break, if you will, let's talk quickly about the guitar. So let's start with the string gauges and tuning.
Sure. This, by the way, is the guitar that Sweetwater fixed. This guitar is a Roxy SG. This is they did a limited run. Gibson made
2013, I believe, right?
Yeah. And but this one's been highly modified compared to what the stock version was.
Right.
And the main difference is that this pickup is a Sustainiac pickup.
Right.
And these switches don't work like they did on the original. This was originally a phase flip for the neck pickup between these two. and this was a coil tap for this one, which this still is a coil tap for that one.
Right.
But this guitar has a piezo pickup, which is on, you know, and I use that to blend in here.
Gotcha.
And the Sustainiac turns on there. And I don't use any tone controls.
Are they actually taken out of the circuit, or you just got
well,
them in?
in this case, for like this guitar, for example, if I turn this back on, that changes from the fundamental to the upper harmonic.
Oh, cool.
So
cool.
I don't use the tone controls for a tone. I use it to
Something
operate.
else.
Yeah. So these are still separate volumes for the pickups, but other than that, you know, the guitar hasn't changed that much. My string gauges are a little bit different than, well, they're definitely different than what my dad used. I have 9, 11, 16, which he eventually got there, but in the 70s, he was using 7, 9,
That's right,
13.
I was looking at it going, that's not a 7.
Which is crazy. So this is 9, 11, 16, and then it's 28, 38, 48. So it gets a little bit heavier.
Right, yeah, it's like a hybrid set of sorts, 9 and 10.
It's D'Addario nickel strings. And
what about the bridge pickup?
The bridge pickup is the stock pickup that went into the guitar. It's a Gibson-made style, PAF style pickup, but it's I don't remember the exact magnetic, you know, properties of the thing, but we did try a couple different ones and found that this one was the closest to what was in the guitar.
Gotcha, cool. So now we know that. I'm going to just ask you, you're using a coiled cable. Is that just to be authentically 60s, 70s, or do you just prefer them, or?
I find that they're easier to deal with and they don't get tangled. You know, I don't run around on stage, but I do kind of almost,
really.
Yeah, I do kind of walk around in circles a little bit, and a regular cable starts getting messed up. But I really, with this rig and this guitar and everything, I don't notice any difference between a cable, a coily cable, or standard cable. You know, some people swear by a huge difference in
I've met people who do,
impedance and whatever, but it doesn't affect how it makes the playing feel to me.
Gotcha. Well, now if we could dive into this a little bit more. One thing I want to say, folks, the noise you're hearing in the background, for some reason, these people think there's a show on tonight, so they've got to work. So give them a break. Give them a break.
There's a bunch of people in the background moving chairs and filling ice containers and stuff like that. But anyway, so I guess like the sound that I was playing at the top, that's a combination of a few things. So let's just have a listen to the A machine, which is the top fractal here, and I'll turn off the piezo pickup, and you can hear like all the different layers of stuff that come into this. So this is what's happening on the top machine. There's no effects, anything coming from the pedals. This is all just in the fractal on this sound at the moment. So right there, you got a little bit of reverb and delay. There's a slow phase happening.
Right.
But if I use the wah, let's see what happens. So when you hear it go slightly out of tune at times, that's because there's a dynaflanger style sound happening in there, which is a delay that is dependent on how hard you pick and how much information is going past the threshold for the envelope section. So
picking and the wah combined
makes it, one side goes more out of tune against the other, and you hear that sound where it's so that's one of the layers, right? So then here's the B machine. Much cleaner.
Completely different.
Yeah. So that one doesn't get affected as much modulation-wise,
No.
right? But now if I add this piezo pickup in here, there's a little more definition that you'll hear.
More snap, yeah.
So it's like a real upper
Yeah,
high-end thing. And then now if I blend them together, so it's a layer upon layer of texture, which is how
Yes.
my dad made a lot of his sounds. In the 70s, he had a guitar rig that he called Ma Bell, and it was
Right.
two almost refrigerator-style racks filled with recording equipment like DBX compressors. But his guitar had a preamp in it that
Right.
brought his guitar to line level. So he was using
Oh, really?
studio equipment that for his effects
very
because the
cool.
guitar had so much output. It was he didn't have to use so much of the amplifier preamp section to get distortion.
Gotcha.
So his sound was very quiet, like you never heard hiss, like from a preamp section. But he could get as much gain as he wanted, and he could use those effects very the same way he would in the studio.
Yeah. And talking of volume, by the way, it sounds huge, but it's not that loud relative to most live setups. It's certainly not Slayer's rig, for example.
Right, and the thing is, we try to be able to give the audience the best sound that we can, and we want to use the PA to its fullest capacity. So,
Right.
The issue that you have, if you're too loud on stage, it's not going to be in the PA.
Right.
And so I want people to hear the definition of everything that we do, and we play with dynamics too, so.
What a concept.
Yeah.
Never catch on, but
Yeah, that's the main thing. But as far as like the layering of sounds, in that Ma Bell rig,
Right.
he had 3 amplifiers and 2 DIs. And so, you're
That's
dealing
hardcore.
with like phase issues, you're dealing with all kinds of stuff, but he wanted to be able to have as many options for when he was back in the studio to blend it the way that he wanted. But on stage, he got an incredible guitar sound as well. But when you hear some of the super clean things, like on Shut Up and Play Your Guitar, there's a song
Right.
called like Pink Napkins. It's just a DI.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he would use like a DI and play through a DI through a PA because his guitar had a preamp in it,
Instead, yeah.
and he could use the compressors the right way and all that stuff, so it was, like you can't get that super hi-fi, like up the top end and low end and like all that stuff from just you can't get it from a Fender or some other just kind of clean amplifier.
Right. You need more. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's,
Question, by the way. So you've just played us something that was 3. It was multi-legs. It wasn't just 3 because you got the thing going on with the dynamics and the
Right.
added tuneness, if you will. When you researched that, did you actually go back to master tapes and work out what Frank did in
I
the studio?
did listen to some of that stuff, but I knew also from having talked to him how he used the Dynaflanger, and I actually had some Dynaflangers to mess with.
Right.
But then I figured out a way to do it inside the Fractal. But I also have another pedal that is specially made that will do what the Dynaflanger does. And some
Gotcha.
other stuff as well, and I can turn that on top of what I do in the Fractal and make it go even more out of tune and do weird stuff. But
Good grief.
it's cool. Like, so for example, like check this sound that we just heard. Like if I add one more layer from a pedal from up here, you can get a really cool sound. Now this gets evil real quick, so check it out. So
That was pretty evil.
yeah, But it's the kind of sound that like what I'll do is I'll build a solo, and I'll have different kinds of elements happen, and then towards like the very end of this one solo section on Drowning Witch, Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, I kick that on, and it's like now the whole thing gets to this like fever pitch of like, you know, heaviness, and it's a cool thing because like I'll usually switch to the neck pickup on it because there's a huge amount of low end, and then like some of the notes ring out in a real sort of throaty way, but it accentuates the phaser and all this stuff, you know. So that pedal is made by Greer, and that was one of his early versions of like a Big Muff style thing. My dad used to use a Big Muff.
So it has a Big Muff-ish element to it. Yeah. Now, the reason you've taped this stuff is that just to stop you kicking, or so no one can see your settings, or both?
No, it's to keep the pedals
where they are.
Yeah, where they are. Some pedals I alter a little bit on a daily basis, but the ones that I don't want to alter,
gotcha. You just tape it. I'm just noticing on the white box there, you've got the tape on the side, so you can't move anything at all. Yeah,
the white box is a cool one. Now, you know what I could do. Let me find like a sound where. We can have like a real just basic, this will be good. Like there's no effects on this. There might be a little reverb, but let's see. All right, so that together, you know, this is just like a stock, like dirty rhythm sound. Turn off the piezo one. So you can hear what that sounds like, and now let's hear the difference of all these pedals. These go to both machines at the same time, so. So that one is interesting because it will start to fall apart when you use the wah.
I noticed that. Now, what is the mysterious white box?
It's a Jex Telex white box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And now this, if I step on this, which is an Echo Park Harmonic Overdrive, in combination with this, it fixes the wah. Which is a strange thing, but it's helpful, you know. So this is like a, you know, it's like a kind of nasally sound, but I use it on a song called Cheapness.
Right.
And then this is a crazy fuzz. It's like a Burns Buzz Around, but it's been modified. It's made by Gooch Effects, and I just wrote on it because it was just a straight, you know, gray box.
Yep. That's very cool. It's almost non-guitar-like.
Yeah, you can get like some cool. See, what I like is to blend textures so that like the pick attack is different for different things. So like this sound, it's subtle, but listen to the difference. You could use both sides. Then this is Akili Germanium Fuzz, you know. And they all have a different you know, sound. And then this one is kind of, it'll sound more like what we're already listening to, but just more of it. And then this one, that's another Greer one called the Peacemaker.
Yep.
This is a Akili pedal, and he made a choice cuts version of, I think this is his D&M pedal. So it's got a drive. And then a boost. So just another variation in color. And then this is another Greer one that we listened to before. And so then this is a prototype of a pedal that came out from TWA, which was a replica of a pedal my dad used called a Systech Harmonic Energizer. And essentially what that is a two-band parametric equalizer, and you find the frequency where your guitar will feed back and you add gain to it. So it's almost like a half-cocked wah, really.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so this is set for a certain song. But you could totally go, you know, into the Michael Schenker world with that, and but you can even use it still with your wah. And if I was to turn on the Dynaflanger style pedal, so that's cool. Then you could add like a flanger to it. There's all kinds of stuff that I can do at any time. But one of the things that we should look at real quick that's cool here is, like, again, here is the just the raw sound, right?
Yeah, the cool thing I would say is that you've got 10 subtle and not so subtle fuzz / overdrive / distortions that you can add to the signal at any time at your whim.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And not only, I would imagine, you can feel the texture. I imagine it alters the way it feels as a player as well.
Yeah, and so let's say I'm playing something and I need just a little bit more gain, but I don't want it to go, you know, like totally
11,
change the sound. I just need a little bit of something. I know that in this area, these guys will just give me the same sound, but just a little bit more, like it's some a little brighter, some more mid-range. But what's cool here, though, is that if I wanted to add just something to just the A machine, so like I'll turn the B machine off right now, and I have a couple distortion options here. So this is like a big muff, but it's really subtle, and it's this Tarkin pedal that was custom made by Cog Custom Effects in England. And so I could add that in, and then I have another one of these set differently. But the thing is, like, if I only wanted that, and I wanted that sort of like that kind of attack on one side, but I wanted to leave the other side, and so that becomes cool because now it reacts differently with the Sustainiac. You get like a little bit of smoothness from the fuzz that's on one side, but you still have the definition and the bite from the other side. So, you know, again, if you listen to, here's just the A. So there's a lot there, and I could blend that, like I could have another one on this side, like let's say this is, now I want a real spitty fuzz. And now I want two fuzzes, you know, so I have the gooch on one side and that pollinator from JHS on this side. So it's just all about textures and layers and stuff.
Quick question about your fractal then. So the bottom bank is basically presets, and you've got, and there's 2 preset banks per each pedal, isn't there? So you can go from...
I can have an alternate sound. Like, so there's 5 preset sounds. I usually keep clean sounds over here and dirty and lead over here.
Gotcha.
But sometimes I can't based on the song. It might just be specifically sound based. But you know, I could step on any one of these and there would be an alternate sound if I need it, you know, because sometimes it's just too hard to think about going up a bank and...
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, and then the next 2 layers, those are the individual pedals in the trays for the...
Yeah, these right here, these
1 and
6 are for the, there's 3 per Axe-Fx that are the analog pedals, and then these are the ones that are within the fractal that you can turn on delays.
Oh,
you know.
okay. And what about the top 2?
This is a boost, which is basically allowing me to take anything that I have and make it 3 dB louder.
On both, or?
On both at the same time. And then this is another Dynaflanger style pedal that goes only to the A machine.
Gotcha. And I believe you were telling me earlier that, believe it or not, this man uses, ignoring the subtle changes he's just shown us, which he can do via the pedals in real time up here or via the 2 banks here, and there's also an alternate preset for each one. He uses no fewer than 40 as bass, so I'm surprised you don't...
I lose where they are all the time. You know, I have to like start writing down like, okay, because if we change the set list up, that makes it where now I'm like, oh, where's that sound, you know? So, and sometimes I'm like spending at least a minute looking for it while I'm talking on the microphone.
I guess that's the one good thing about having a display where you can name it, so at least you...
Yeah, but even so, like even when I kind of know where it is, I still like, is it in like preset 2 up 6 banks or down? You know, it's like, I don't know. You know, I find it eventually. But, you know, the cool thing is that there's a lot of different sounds like, you know, here's another interesting one that there's a song called Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, and it has this envelope flanger on it, you know, so there's 2 different versions of it on the song. So this is just the clean part of the sound, but then here's the... So, kind of release, but then here's the other one where like, and then this has a clean element mixed in. This is where, you know, like the harder, there's a hard line, which I'll probably mess up right now, but something like that, you know, but it's a really hard part of the song, but to really make it sound like the record, you have to make that sound, because it doesn't sound like that if you're just doing, you know, it's like it doesn't have the vibe. So these are the kind of layers of details that I have to go after to create the stuff that are these unique sounds that you can't just go buy the pedal off the shelf.
No, exactly. Wow, what can I say? Dweezil, thank you so much for giving us a brief but very insightful look into, a glimpse into your mental torture every night. This is staggering. It's mind-boggling, and hopefully it gives you guys some ideas. That means buy lots of pedals from Sweetwater. I'm going to let Dweezil play you out. See ya!
Here's an interesting sound that sounds a little bit like a violin. Sometimes the trick with this sound though is that you have to mute strings you don't want heard, otherwise it'll do that like weird little yodel.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah, so it's a weird combo if you listen to it individually. And this is the other side. Sorry.
You can almost hear the bow. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a cool sound though.